Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Nam Sankirtana ki Jai Nandakoti Vaishnavinda ki Jai Shri Ram Navmi Mahotsav ki Jai Ho Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Narayanam Namaskritta Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Hare Krishna devotees. So happy Ram Navami to all the assembled Vaishnavas, and beg the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis so that we can have a nice discussion today on the most glorious appearance day of Sri Lord Ramachandra, and celebrating this Ram Navami celebration, of course, in a very special way, or I can say unique way, but with the intelligence of so many nice devotees. This is a sign of great perseverance. No virus will separate Sadhu Sangha on this wonderful and very, very auspicious day. So thank you to all the devotees who have arranged such a nice opportunity for us. So we'll discuss today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, chapter number 10, verse number 3. And this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami has just completed discussing the pastimes of Katavanga Maharaj, and Katavanga Maharaj had only a few moments before death to perfect himself for going back home, back to Godhead, and certainly that would have been very inspiring for Parikshit Maharaj, who had 7 days, seemingly an eternity compared to the time Katavanga Maharaj had, and so must have been a very inspiring story. And now, in presenting the pastimes of Lord Ram and moving, through the lineage and coming towards the end of this dynasty, and preparing to begin the very elaborate discussions in the 10th canto about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. And so Shukadeva Goswami is explaining now in chapters 10 and 11 of this 9th canto the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. So we'll read text number 3. I'll just recite the Sanskrit quickly and then go into translation and purport. So, Tasyanu charitam raja nishabhi tatadarshibihi shrutam hi vranitam bhuri tvaya sita pater muhu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramachandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth. Because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Mother Sita, I shall describe these activities only in brief. Please listen. Purport. Modern Rakshasas, posing as educationally advanced merely because they have doctorates, have tried to prove that Lord Ramachandra is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary person. But those who are learned and spiritually advanced will never accept such notions. They will accept the descriptions of Lord Ramachandra and his activities only as presented by Tattva-darshis, those who know the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the Supreme Personality of Godhead advises, Tadvidi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya upakdekshantyate jnanam jnaninas tattva-darshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Unless one is tattva-darshi, in complete knowledge of the absolute truth, one cannot describe the activities of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, although there are so many so-called Ramayanas, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, some of them are not actually authoritative. Sometimes Lord Ramachandra's activities are described in terms of one's own imaginations, speculations, or material sentiments. But the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra should not be handled as something imaginary. While describing the history of Lord Ramachandra, Shukadeva Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit, "You have already heard about the activities of Lord Ramachandra. Apparently, therefore, 5,000 years ago, there were many Ramayans, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, and there are many still. But we must select only those books written by the Tattva-darshis, Jnaninas Tattva-darshinaha, not the books of so-called scholars who claim knowledge only on the basis of a doctorate. This is a warning by Shukadeva Goswami, Rishabhis Tattva-darshibi. Although the Ramayana composed by Valmiki is a huge literature, the same activities are summarized here by Shuka Goswami in a few verses." Om Gyani Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Sagana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktabinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So once again, I would like to seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, and in particular His Grace Jagat Guru Prabhu, so that we can have a nice discussion today. So this is, again, text number 3 from Canto 9, Chapter 10. The title of the chapter is The Pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. So Srila Prabhupada here in the purport is guiding us that the Ramayana, and all other Shastra for that matter, are to be heard through disciplic succession, through the heart of a pure devotee who has seen the truth, Tattva Darshina. And this is the only way to really understand and have the glories penetrate all of us, and certainly of these most magnificent pastimes of Lord Ram. To write about someone great, the author themselves have to be great, and so we must rely on very advanced acharyas to be able to explain this knowledge in a very clear and accurate way. And so Srila Prabhupada here is guiding us, and he has said many times and referenced the importance of following Valmiki Muni as the authorized or the authority on the Ramayana. He goes as far as to say is the only authority, and he writes that in several places. So today, I thought we could discuss 3 topics. The first, the glories of Lord Ramachandra seen by his transformative power of the heart. And 2, we could discuss a little bit about, how he, through his example, shows this example of ideal husband, ideal son, ideal disciple, ideal friend, and certainly ideal king and leader. And then I thought the third topic we could discuss is just his extraordinary reciprocation with his devotees. We see this in the mood of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Lord Ramachandra himself shows extraordinary reciprocation with his devotees. So I thought we could discuss those 3 things today. So the pastimes of Valmiki Muni are very interesting and inspiring to us to know about Lord Ramachandra. To measure the greatness of fire, we test it by its ability to transform an object. If I take a very thick iron rod and I put it in fire, and if it becomes liquid, I know that fire is very strong. So by the transformation of that iron rod, I know then that that fire is also very strong. So this is an indicator of the strength of anything. And we know in the pastime of Lord Nityananda, he went to deliver Jagai and Madai for a very particular reason. He wanted to prove the potency of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. And he said, if I can transform the hearts of these 2 most fallen personalities, then certainly the supremacy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy will be undoubted, unquestioned. So, like the fire transforming the iron into liquid metal, similarly, the Lord Nityananda's message transforming the hearts of Jagat and Madai proved the potency of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message. And so, similarly, to get some idea of the greatness of Lord Ramachandra and his holy names, we can discuss the extraordinary transformation of Valmiki Muni. From the most sinful of robbers and murderers to becoming the authority on the Ramayana. The story of Valmiki Muni and his deliverance from the most fallen condition is in itself an extraordinary glorification of the potency of Lord Ramchandra. And this transformation of Valmiki speaks of how merciful Lord Ramchandra is to all of us and what hope we may have to follow in his footsteps and have a similar transformation of the heart. So how unqualified was he? Well, Valmiki Muni, his name was Ratnakar during this era of his life. He was a highway robber, a murderer. He was preying on people who were traveling through the forests, and he was basically maintaining his family in such a very evil and sinful way. And one day, the great Narada Muni happened upon him. As Narada Muni often does, he takes great compassion when he sees somebody off the beaten path, off the right track. And this great mood of compassion brought Narada Muni in the presence of Valmiki. And we see this, with the activities of Srila Prabhupada, driven by this great mood of compassion, and inspired him to, cross oceans, seeing the suffering of everybody. And I wanted to take a side tangent for a moment. We are all experiencing a mood of compassion, seeing the suffering of so many around us in this current era, in this situation with this coronavirus, and it's invoking this mood of compassion. And my hope is that we can take that feeling of compassion and pain and sadness and bottle it up and put it in our pocket, and our left pocket specifically. And so when this virus lifts, when we are free again to associate, we can open this bottle of compassion and sadness for the suffering of others and use it to inspire us to go out and spread this message of Srila Prabhupada, to preach his mission, to distribute his books, because this is the only means to relieve real suffering. And so while we are somewhat limited in our ability today, if we bottle this mood and save it for later, we can render a great service following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and following in the footsteps of the great Narada Muni. And certainly, we all know we are coming in Guru Parampara from Narada Muni in our Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. So Narada Muni approached Valmiki, again Ratnakar at the time, and he said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I am maintaining my family." And so Narada Muni very cleverly asked him, he said, "Why don't you ask your family? Are they going to share in your sins for everything that you're doing? Are they going to take half of what you're doing?" He seemed confident that they would, and after some discussion, Valmiki Muni went back to his family and asked, and his family, what do you think they said? "Sure, absolutely." He said, "Thanks, but no thanks. No chance. We're not taking your sins. Your duty is to maintain us. We are not going to take your sins." And Valmiki was shocked at the response. And he went back to Narada Muni, and he immediately offered his pranams and dandavats to Narada Muni, and very humbly spoke to him. And we see this very important instruction for us, that Lord Ramachandra's mercy is infinite and unlimited, but to access it, to acquire it, it takes a humble mood. And Valmiki's heart immediately began to melt by the words of Narada Muni. Narada Muni began to preach to him And being very humble, Valmiki began to understand the wrongs of his ways. And he began to see the flaws, and this is very key. When someone points out our flaws, how do we react? In a defensive. We put up our guard. But Valmiki had his guard down in a very humble way, and thus the message could penetrate, and thus the heart, as we'll see, transformed very powerfully. But without that mood, the mercy of Lord Ramachandra will not allow us to transform this, at least speaking for myself, stone-like heart. So Narada Muni told Valmiki that you can overcome all your past sins very easily. Just chant the holy names of Lord Ram. They're so potent. All the divine qualities and characteristics are contained within the name Rama. Srila Prabhupada explains to us that the meaning of Lord Ram is a source of all pleasure. And so Narada Muni began to, again, preach to him. And Narada Muni, of course, has a great track record of uplifting the most fallen of the fallen, Mugrari the hunter and so many others. And so we have, faith that, of course, Narada Muni's instruction was going to have great benefit for Valmiki. So in instructing him to chant the name of Rama, Valmiki had one problem. He was so fallen, so sinful, that he could not even chant the names of the Lord. Now these are in the prior yugas when people were so much more spiritually advanced. Today we can imagine, yes, people cannot even be able to chant the name of Rama, 2 simple syllables. But this is in prior eras where people were so holy and still he was so fallen. So Narada Muni was very clever and thought, well, whatever it takes, I'll get them to chant. And so he said, okay, you chant death, Mara. That's a word that's very familiar to you, too familiar, unfortunately. And so you chant Mara, 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 Mara. And of course, as you chant Mara, 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 it becomes Rama, Rama, Rama. And as we know from 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastime of Ajamil, whether you chant the names of the Lord knowingly or unknowingly, the effect is there. When Ajamil called out to Narayan, intending to call out to his sons, Lord Vishnu himself took that as a call out to him and sent his Vishnu Dutas. So, though Valmiki Muni was not even, directly chanting, he was indirectly chanting, and the effect was there. And so he was chanting like this, Rama, 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 coming off of Mara, 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 for thousands of years, 50, 60,000 years, in intense meditation. And Narada Muni came back and found him, and there was a giant anthill over him. And thus he got the name Valmiki. Valmika means anthill. And so his name was then initiated into Valmiki. And so powerful were the names of Lord Ram that Valmiki became fully purified. He was free of all sense desires, all tendencies to sin. That is the beauty of bhakti. Even the deeply rooted tendencies to sin within the heart, that bijam and kutam, are removed by the power of the holy names. And Lord Ram's names are so powerful that all that remained in his heart was pure love for Lord Ram. And then Narada Muni revealed to Valmiki all the glorious pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. And we know later Lord Brahma asked him, Valmiki Muni, to write the Ramayana into poetry, and following the meter in the mood of sadness, seeing the female bird lamenting the death of her male companion by the arrow of a hunter, he composed in a particular meter, this meter in a mood of grief, the entire Ramayana, some 24,000 verses. So, Valmiki Muni became such a great devotee by the power and potency of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes and names, that he became this supreme authority on the Ramayana. From a highway robber to the authority, even Lord Ramachandra's own sons, Love and Kush, they heard and studied and then memorized Valmiki's Ramayana. And he then asked these 2 great sons to spread the story of Lord Ram far and wide. And when they went to Ayodhya, though they are the sons of the king, they were dressed as ascetics, forest dwellers. Though very beautiful, they were unrecognizable. But when they began to sing the glorious pastimes of Lord Ram himself, along with his associates, came to hear this wonderful recitation, and all of that coming from the teachings of Valmiki Muni. So we can see the extraordinary power of Lord Ramachandra's names by the extraordinary transformation of the heart of Valmiki from such a sinful place to an extraordinary Acharya. And so by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada, every day we also are glorifying and chanting the names of Lord Ram. We have the most potent Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Srila Prabhupada, comments in one of his lectures on Ram Navmi that, that chanting 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu is equivalent to chanting one name of Lord Ram. That's how potent Lord Ram's names are. And chanting one name of Krishna is equivalent to chanting 3 names of Lord Ram. So in our Maha Mantra we have, you can do the math, many times we are calling out to the most glorious Lord Ramachandra. So by their fortune, we see how Valmiki Muni's heart was able to be transformed. If we take to the process of chanting this wonderful Maha Mantra, we also have some hope to acquire the same benediction. And if we approach it with the humility and the sincerity, then certainly Lord Ramachandra's mercy will be bestowed upon all of us. So that's a little bit of the pastimes of Valmiki Muni. So now, who is Lord Ram? We see from the Brahma Samhita, Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtanan Avatar Makaro Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Param Pumanyo Govinda Madipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. This is the 39th verse of the Brahma Samhita from the 5th chapter, and it says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the form of Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions. So as Prabhupada opens in this purport, he says that some do not understand Lord Ramachandra to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but instead an ordinary person. So here we see that Lord Ramachandra is the one of the primary incarnations, Ramadi, we see. So he is one of the principal incarnations of Lord Vishnu. And there are innumerable incarnations. As you cannot count the number of waves in an ocean, you cannot count the incarnations. But our Shastras speak of the principal incarnations. And of course, Lord Ramachandra is one of those. He is a plenary expansion of Krishna. So he is in the same category as the Supreme Personality. And Lord Ram shows, a portion of the complete features of the Supreme Lord. And we know from this verse that Krishna, he is the source, he is Swayam of all these incarnations. But we should not mistake, because Lord Ramachandra appears in this form that's similar to ours, some foolishly mistake him to be, of this human type of thing, but it is not the case. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an incarnation. And so we should be very, very careful. And it's very nice because appearing in this form, it is very relatable in features to us, and thus provides the basis for great instructions for all of us, being in a very relatable situation to our everyday existence. So we hear from from the Bhagavad Gita, Paritanaya Sadhana Minashaita Dushkatam Dharmastam Stapanataya Sambhavani Yuge Yuge, that Krishna appears for these reasons, to destroy the miscreants. We'll talk about that in a moment. To deliver the pious, to reestablish the principles of religion, this dharma. But our acharyas comment that actually Krishna and his incarnations, they appear really to inspire the devotees to take to the process of devotional service and to enjoy with his devotees and to captivate their hearts. That is the principal reason. And certainly the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra, they took place millions of years ago, yet they remain very fresh. We may hear them over and over again, yet they are so charming to the heart. They're full of intrigue. Though we know the beginning, the middle, and the end, they still remain very exciting and fresh. And this is the nature of spiritual life. It's so sweet. It never stales, though there is great repetition. And so these pastimes are very, very important. And Krishna comes in his various forms to show these pastimes, to attract us, and to inspire us to the process of devotional service. And so we're very, grateful. And Lord Ramachandra's, appearance in his human-like form, it's very important because of, again, this relatability. And so we can pray to be inspired by hearing about him, to be able to follow him. And for Lord Ramachandra, we follow his actions. For Lord Krishna, we follow his words. We cannot follow his actions. Those are dangerous. We're not going to, dance on a serpent and swallow fire or try to lift Govardhan or dance with the gopis. Those are dangerous. But we follow his words. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we follow his mood. So Lord Ramachandra, we follow his actions. Krishna, we follow his words. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we follow his mood. And so Lord Ramachandra has shown by his life so many wonderful examples, and we'll discuss several of those today. But he shows us this ideal path of husband, of leader, king, sons and disciple and whatnot. So one nice way for us to explore and to really systematize our understanding and application of Lord Ram's pastimes, because they are so sweet for us to hear, sometimes they become entertainment, which is not the purpose of them. They are meant to transform the heart, like that of Valmiki Muni. And so, every time I have an opportunity to speak on Lord Ramachandra, I talk about this 3-column chart, where if you take, all the different, situations Lord Ram approached, whether it was the coronation, the banishing to the forest, the crossing of the ocean, the handling of Mother Sita, or the handling of the different, you take all these situations, and you write in the second column how Lord Ram approached that situation, what his mood was. And then in the third column, we write, how would we approach it? What would our mood be? And try to find similar situations in our life and try to analyze. And as we try to bridge the gap between column 2 and column 3, we can then really take to these teachings of Lord Ram and have the intended purpose, which is to purify the heart and awaken this pure love of God. And so by taking these very practical instructions and applying them, we can get great benefit. So just a brief summary of his appearance before we get to some of those pastimes. His appearance starts with the description of the great demon Ravana, a very vicious demon, as we know, was forbidding the worship of Lord Narayan and harassing the Brahmanas. He had usurped Kuvera's wealth in the city of gold in Lanka, and even though he was a relative, it sounds very similar today. We see families torn apart by the greed and clamoring for wealth. Children are waiting for their fathers and mothers to die so they can gain the inheritance. Like this, Ravana had very wicked and evil propensities, and even though he had this city of gold, he was trying to build his staircase to Indraloka, but we know, those material lust desires will never be satisfied. Even if he conquered Indraloka and the whole of the universe, still that material desires will never be satisfied. Just ask Hiranyakashipu. He had everything but a 5-year-old boy, and he was not satisfied. And certainly we know his inability to control his lust will lead to his downfall. But he was reigning terror, and so the demigods took shelter of the Supreme Lord. They had nowhere else to go, and they approached the Supreme Lord, and Lord Vishnu gave his affirmation that he will descend to the earthly planet in the Raghu dynasty as the son of King Dasharath. And he told them that I will appear, and he asked them all, you also beget children in the Vanara race in Kishkinda, and you join me in this pastime, and I will call upon you at the right time to help fight this great demon. And so various demigods followed that instruction, as we know. And so that's a little bit about his descent. Now, I wanted to spend a little bit more time on the examples of an ideal life. And Lord Ram shows us this path of ideal leader, king, husband, and so on and so forth. And so we can just pick a few, and these pastimes are very long, and so we'll just give not really the detail of the pastime, but more the summary or the punchline, so that we can try to understand as we hear them in the future, and remember these amazing instructions. So as the ideal son, Lord Ramchandra was born the heir to the king. From childhood, everybody knew who was going to be king, and everybody was anxious to see the great Lord Ram become heir to the throne. And as we know, moments before his coronation, Dasharatha's king, Kaikeyi, expressed her desire to receive one of her boons that she had received previously for rendering great service to King Dasharatha on the battlefield and saving him at that time. And so this created a moment of just complete devastation. Dasharatha was completely overwhelmed hearing the very heinous request to have Lord Ram banished to the forest and to have Bharat enthroned as king. And of course, Bharatraj was not in the area at the time. He was away, out of station at that time. And so when the situation was taking place, and there was great devastation amongst everybody, except for Lord Ram. When Lord Ram heard of the news the morning and seeing the very, very sad situation, he said, "What's going on?" And Dasharatha could barely speak. And when he told what the benediction was, Lord Ram was, "What's the big deal? Okay, you want me to go to the forest? I'll go to the forest." And because Lord Ram had the perfect attachment. He was not attached to becoming king, though that was his rightful heir, though that's what he was being groomed for from the beginning of his birth, though he was moments away from enjoying and having the opulences of the great kingdom. His attachment was to none of that. He knew no material opulence would give him happiness. His attachment was to service to his father. And in order to uphold the words of his father, if that meant him serving by living in tree bark and eating roots and berries and sleeping on the floor in the forest, he would trade opulent beds and opulent foods and royal garments in a heartbeat. He was not the least bit dejected. He was completely equipoised. And Lord Ramchandra in this pastime shows us where our attachment should be to. Our attachment to all these material hankerings is very difficult. Right now, we are being detached from so many things that we want to do. It is a great blessing by the Supreme Lord to show us where our attachments really should be to chanting the holy names, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and making progress in devotional service. Right? So Lord Ram shows us this perfect mood, and we wonder how many sons today would take such a mood. They would be arguing, they would file court cases, and call all kinds of different areas to protect their rightful heir. But Lord Ramchandra showed perfect example. And Bharat Maharaj, he also showed the perfect example. When he was given the news, he was not woohoo! No, he was angry, devastated, crushed. He abandoned his own mother, saying how you could do such a thing. Of course, Lord Ram carried no resentment to even Kaikeyi. He offered obeisances even upon returning from the forest many years later. But Bharat was so upset. And of course, we know he took a great austerity. He was going to rule the kingdom out of duty to ensure that chaos would not ensue. But he ruled it outside the gates, living in a very, ascetic-like life. Shukadev Goswami later in this chapter describes he was eating barley cooked in cow urine, living and sleeping on the grass, on the kusha grass, and ruling with Lord Ramchandra's wooden sandals that he will later return, carrying them on his head to his beloved Ram as he returns to Ayodhya. So both sides we see extraordinary character that is very instructive for us in what are we doing, what are we attached to. Sometimes even in our devotional service, we become attached to the service. I want this service or that service, but instead, our mood should be attached to pleasing Krishna. And Lord Ramachandra was not attached to serving as a king; he was attached to doing whatever was needed out of service to his father. Then we have the next example of the. Excuse me, my computer is frozen here a little bit. 1 second, I'm having a little technical difficulty. Is the audio coming okay, or is that also frozen?
Audio is okay.
Audio's okay, okay. Well. Just give me 1 second while I try to fix this. So, sorry, my computer is broke. Guess we'll use another one. So, the next example here is of the ideal disciple. As I mentioned, Lord Ramachandra was living a life groomed as a great prince to be king. And at the age of 16, he took to the process of taking and becoming very menial servant to Vishwamitra Muni, and rendering such amazing service of fetching water and building hermitages and gathering foodstuffs and whatever was required. And he showed this very great mood as a disciple of as Vishwamitra Muni, and he practiced such perfect service to his spiritual master that he became really well in tuned, and at the very famous pastime of entering King Janak's palace and where he was going to pick up the bow. He did not even Vishwamitra Muni did not even have to tell Lord Ram to grab the bow. He simply said, "See the bow," and that was enough for Lord Ramachandra to know exactly what his spiritual master wanted him to do. And this is what happens when one renders great service. That one knows the mood and heart of the spiritual master because they are so surrendered to them. And before they even speak, before the spiritual master asks for water, they bring water. The next second class disciple will bring when asked. The third class will ask, "Why you need?" and then will bring. And the lowest of all class will argue and say, "I'll get it later." This is the mood. But Lord Ramchandra shows us this, very perfect mood as a disciple. As an ideal husband, he took this vrata, ekapatni vrata, in taking, one wife, Mother Sita, and showing us the way of this ideal grihastha life. And of course, the duty of the husband is to protect the wife in all circumstances, and went through extraordinary efforts to protect Mother Sita, including raging, a very grand and difficult war to protect her. And this is the role of the husband in all circumstances. And Srila Prabhupada speaks much about this. He was the ideal leader and king, and And we see this, we hear a lot about this, Rama Raja, right? This, leadership of Lord Ram and how amazing he was leading. He was leading, as a father to all his citizens. All of his citizens he viewed as his sons, and the citizens, seeing this great care for him, viewed him as their father, and thus there was just a perfect situation in all of Ayodhya under his leadership. And I thought I'd read a couple of the verses that just describe how extraordinary Lord Ram was leading. And in the 51st verse of the same chapter, it says, Lord Ramchandra became king during Treta Yuga, but because of his good government, the age was like Satyuga. Everyone was religious and completely happy. So we can see that the circumstances can be uplifted by great leadership. Even today, it is possible to bring Satyuga-like characteristics out if we have, leaders who can follow in the footsteps of Lord Ramachandra. And we see, during the reign of Lord Ram, anybody was able to go and see Lord Ram personally inside of his palace, and they could lodge any type of complaint. Yet, the open door policy had nobody coming through the doors. Just everybody was so happy, so peaceful. How peaceful? It says, O Maharaj Parikshit, the best of the Bharata dynasty, during the reign of Ramachandra, the forests, the rivers, the hills, the mountains, and the states, the 7 islands, and the 7 seas were all favorable in supplying the necessities of life for all living beings. So we can see when there is great leadership, there is no disturbance in society because everybody is following according to the Varnashram system that Krishna has established, and thus everything works in great cohesiveness. And when it doesn't, like we have today, the recipe is very simple, very, very clear, and very, very perfect. We see this next verse is extraordinary to characterize how great of a leader Lord Ram was, what kind of situation he was able to create. Tell me, can anybody running for any position anywhere in the world deliver this type of situation? This is verse 53. When Lord Ramchandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was a king of this world, all bodily and mental suffering, disease, old age, bereavement, lamentation, distress, fear, and fatigue were completely absent. We have quite the opposite right now, don't we? The whole world is suffering of bodily and mental suffering, disease, bereavement, even old age. How much distress? This is present because there is not good leadership and not good followers. Both. You need both. But the last line of this verse is most extraordinary. There was even no death for those who did not want it. Lord Ramachandra was such a powerful, extraordinary leader that even death was not available to anyone unless they wanted it. And you can imagine how that would play out in today's world. Utter chaos would ensue if everybody thought they were immortal. What kind of dangerous society we would live in if that were the case. But there, people were so educated and they were only focused on going back home, back to Godhead. They were not eager to live in these material bodies and try to enjoy these material senses. They simply were trying to perfect self-realization, and when they were done, they were eager to leave this body and go back home, back to Godhead. But you can see the extraordinary descriptions of how Lord Ramachandra was able to create an environment by his great leadership. So he was certainly an ideal king and an ideal leader in this way. So now we'll discuss just a few of Lord Ramachandra's sweet reciprocations. The devotees of Lord Ram, don't have anything in their hearts except for pleasing Lord Ram. We see this in the example of Hanumanji. No desire but to serve. Lakshman, all the years in the forest, didn't eat, didn't sleep, was simply engaged 24/7 in service to his beloved Lord Ram. This is the mood of the devotees. But Krishna reciprocates in the exact way. he has only one desire. He's not interested in managing all the affairs. He tells us in Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, I am aloof from all of that. His interest? To simply enjoy with his devotees, to give his devotees pleasure. And this is the reciprocation. Mahamekam, yes, the devotee only surrenders to Krishna, and Krishna fully gives everything back to his devotees. And the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra show this in extraordinary and very vivid ways, very remarkable ways. You know, we have the pastime of finding Mother Sita. Now, Krishna is sitting in everyone's heart as Paramatma. He knows what's happening in every corner of the universe. What's happening in this house, the next house, the next planet, everywhere. In the bottom of the ocean, the darkest of dark caves. He didn't know where Mother Sita was? He was really wondering, did she go north, south, east, or west? Come on. Of course he knew. But what was his mission? His mission was to engage his devotees in having the great opportunity to render this service. And so he had great lamentation. And you can imagine that lamentation. The devotees were so inspired to try to bring peace and happiness to Krishna, because their only desire is to see Lord Ram happy. Excuse me, one and the same. To see Lord Ram happy. And so they were enthusiastic to uplift the mood of Lord Ram. And of course, we know Hanumanji had the great opportunity to find Mother Sita. Now, Hanumanji could have easily just brought her back. He destroyed half of Lanka simply with his tail. He could have just brought her back. But why didn't he want to bring her back? Because he wanted Lord Ram, his beloved Lord Ram, to have the credit. Lord Ram wants Hanumanji to have the credit, and Hanumanji wants Lord Ram to have. This is the two-way street of love between us and Krishna. It is a two-way street, not a one-way street. When Krishna says, you surrender everything to me, Krishna reciprocates and surrenders everything back. And we always win in that equation, because he has so much more he can give than we can give. And so, even when Hanumanji came back, and news came that Mother Sita was found, Hanumanji did not come back and say, I found her, I found her, I found her. He was way in the back of the assembly. And Lord Ram wanted to hear firsthand what had happened. And so when Hanumanji approaches Lord Ram, he doesn't even say, well, what he says? He says, she was seen. He doesn't even say, I saw her. And he gives a report. But he doesn't even say, I did. He says, she was seen. So in a beautiful pastime, of course, Lord Ramachandra knew where she was. He's never separated from his eternal consort. They are eternally together. But for the manifestation of this lila, to captivate our heart, to inspire us to serve in this unmotivated way, he performs this pastime. Building the bridge. Did he really need a bridge? I mean, as Vamandev, 1 foot, he pierced the upper universe. He couldn't cross over one mild ocean. His expansion, Ananta Shesh, is carrying millions of universes on his hoods. And he doesn't even feel them as we don't feel a piece of dust on our head. Yet, within one of those universes, there are millions of planets. And within those planets, there are so many bodies of water. And Lord Ram couldn't cross one part of the water. Of course, when the personification of the ocean comes, she says, yes, I can part way and have you cross, but I want you to be glorified by doing your activity of building this bridge and having these stones float on the water with the power of your holy names. And so, for the purpose of that, this bridge was built. And we see in this pastime of building the bridge, Lord Ramachandra, Krishna, they do not look at what service we do. They look at the capacity of us to serve in what we do. Some may be serving great, some may be serving small. But all we need to compare, up to my ability, how much am I serving? Krishna looks at everyone according to their ability. And Lord Ramachandra was equally pleased by the squirrel dropping a few pebbles as he was by the big monkeys bringing giant boulders and stones. The Supreme Lord only looks to whatever our ability is. We should not think, oh, I cannot serve, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. Krishna doesn't look that way. He only looks, what is your ability? And of that ability, how much are you giving to me? So if we give 100% of whatever it is we can, know for certain the Supreme Lord will be pleased, and no need to compare to what anyone else is doing. Just simply, what is our ability? And the building of this bridge is a great illustration of the potency of service in this mood. Jatayu's last rites, how dear Lord Ramachandra is. That in seeing Jatayu having fought Ravana just after he had abducted Mother Sita, and he was on the verge of dying and then died, Lord Ramachandra performed his funeral rites as a son would for his own father. And he performed, we see this very similar pastime, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu carrying the body of Haridas Thakur and his own body and bathing him in the ocean and then putting him in samadhi. We see the extraordinary reciprocation that the Supreme Lord has. Garuda saving Lakshmana and Ramachandra. The snakes, really? Nothing material can touch this spiritual form. Lakshmana is also Vishnu Tattva. They are untouchable. But to allow Garuda to render some service, this happened. And Garuda himself says, after freeing Lord Ram and Lakshman from the snakes, he says, now I will watch you destroy Ravan. He knew he was just allowed to participate in this pastime. So the devotees, they understand whatever we do in service, we actually have no ability. We are tiny infinitesimal sparks. But Krishna allows us to render some service out of his great mercy. Actually, we are like flashlights in the sunny, shiny day. What can a flashlight do to illuminate anything when the sun is shining bright? Nothing. But still the Lord accepts the flashlight of our service, whatever it is. So the mood of the devotee, they know that we are just doing, just like when Ramananda Rai is speaking with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asking Ramananda Rai all these questions. And Ramananda Rai is amused. He says, why are you asking me? I'm only speaking what you are telling me. And nonetheless, he began to speak. Ramananda Rai didn't think, oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asking me? Let me show him how much I know. He knew. It was only Krishna himself inspiring him to speak. So the devotees know where their source of any ability they have. They know their ability is limited. They know Krishna doesn't need us in service. But Krishna wants us in service. Very big difference. Lord Ram didn't need anybody to find Mother Sita. He didn't need anybody to build a bridge. He didn't need anybody to rescue him. But he thoroughly enjoyed that reciprocation with his devotees. And this is the mood of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. So in conclusion, we get a wonderful benediction from reading and hearing about Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. And this benediction is in the 23rd verse of the 11th chapter, 9th canto. O King Parikshit, anyone who orally receives the narrations concerning the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes will ultimately be freed from the disease of envy and thus be liberated from the bondage of fruitive activities. Only way to be freed from the disease of envy. This is the great benediction. By hearing these pastimes and narrations contained here in Srimad Bhagavatam, one can become free from the envy. It is envy that has brought us here in the material world in the first place, and by the mercy of Lord Ramachandra, by chanting the holy names of the Lord, by rendering pure devotional service, following in the footsteps of these wonderful devotees, understanding our position, and understanding the reciprocation of Supreme Lord, like Valmiki Muni had, we can also have a gigantic transformation of the heart, purifying it completely, free of all the diseases of material desires, and return back home, back to Godhead in full Krishna Prema. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Any comments or questions or corrections, please? Okay, so if not, we can go on to the next part of our program.